What does the idea of authority mean to us? We might at first react negatively to that idea. We may connect the idea of authority with the idea of power, and perhaps are reminded of the saying, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. In fact, our nation's constitutional system is built on the idea of individual rights, and when it grants authority to elected officials, it does so in a system of checks and balances designed so that no single individual can gain too much power, so that no individual can ever be the sole legal authority. If we are going to understand the word authority in today's gospel reading, we have to get away, though, from a fearful idea of authority. It's worth noting that Mark is not speaking here about legal authority when he notes that Jesus taught as one having authority and not as the scribes. Mark notes really that Jesus is teaching with a moral authority, an authority of persuasion, an authority of conviction of purpose, not an authority of forcing someone to do something. Jesus teaches with a conviction that resonates with people's hearts. And people hear in the words of Jesus the voice of God. Today's gospel reading comes from the first chapter of Mark's gospel, and so it is early in the public ministry of Jesus. When Jesus orders the unclean spirit to come out of the man in this passage, that's actually the very first miracle that Mark describes in his gospel. But what's interesting here is that people are amazed at the teaching of Jesus even before he performs that miracle. And even after Jesus orders the unclean spirit to come out, the first comment that Mark mentions, the first thing that he quotes from someone, is about the teaching of Jesus, not about the miracle. As someone says, "What is this?" A new teaching with authority. The people recognize then a connection between the teaching of Jesus and his actions. And we notice this with their next words. He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him. Throughout the Gospels, we see people who find the authority of Jesus challenging, but not oppressive. They find his teaching stirring their consciences, moving their hearts, but not forcing them to act against their will. In that way, we can see that Jesus speaks with authority, but he is not what we would call authoritarian. We must never fear the authority of Jesus, but instead we must embrace it so that we can be the persons God has created us to be. In fact, it is because Jesus spoke with authority that we are here at Mass. We hand on what we have first received. The authority of Jesus makes possible the celebration of the sacraments, as well as the teaching authority of the church. Today marks the beginning of National Catholic Schools Week. And in our Catholic schools, our teachers seek to hand on the faith, what they have received in faith, as well as the natural human knowledge that is necessary to live in this world here and now, even as disciples of Jesus. Our teachers seek to make the wisdom and authority of Jesus known to our young people. We have great opportunities for them locally, with our own parish school going up to 8th grade and Ozark Catholic Academy for the high school grades. I hope that parents will consider the possibilities of Catholic schools for your children. Catholic schools were a big part of what led me to become a priest. And they are a huge part of helping young people today to follow whatever calling God has in mind for them. People were amazed at Jesus because he spoke with authority like the great prophets of old and not like the scribes of his own time. It's worth asking ourselves now whether we are truly amazed at the authority of Jesus. Do our hearts burn within us when we hear his words? Does our conscience kick in when we hear about our need to love our enemies or to help the needy? If we are amazed at the words and the authority of Jesus and know what it does in our lives, we will want to follow him. And naturally, we will want others to know the great things that Jesus has done and continues to do. On the other hand, if we are not amazed by the authority of Jesus, we must ask ourselves why that is. After all, even the unclean spirits obeyed him. Why can't we?